Hi everyone! This week I'm going to be talking about my favorite places in Sri Lanka. The other week I posted about 5 reasons to go there. I feel like an even better reason to go is to give you some great ideas of what you can see there. Before I start, I want to just make a disclaimer. I'm probably going to butcher a lot of these names, so please, no one get offended. I'm trying my best, and it has also been a few years since I've been there. If I mispronounce something, just don't take it personally. I'm trying. Number 1 is Anuradhapura. If you've visited Sri Lanka or if you've ever researched into it, you've probably heard of it already. It is an ancient city. It's actually one UNESCO World Heritage Site in Sri Lanka. There are 8 in all. In this list, I'm only going to mention 5. It is actually one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities in the world, so it's pretty significant. You can either go by bicycle, which is what I did. For a bicycle, I think you can rent it for just a few dollars, so it's pretty good. Or you can go by car or tuk-tuk. One thing that I want to note about Anuradhapura is the pricing. A lot of people get confused, overwhelmed because the main ticket price is kind of expensive, but you don't necessarily need to buy that one. There are actually a lot of sites in the ancient city that are free. If you only pick those, you might be missing out on some others that maybe interest you. My advice is to look into which sites you want to see beforehand. Pick a few that you really want to see. Once you get to the ancient city, go to the ticket office and check the pricing for all those sites that you're interested in. Maybe it'll work out that you shouldn't buy the whole ticket price for everything and that it makes more sense to just pick the ones because that will end up being cheaper, or you want to see tons of things and it would be so expensive to pay individually that you should just get the full ticket. You can see obviously lots of temples, some of them that are still used. There are a lot of older stupas, really ancient ones that are they're not really used in processions, but they are huge. They are by far the biggest stupas I've ever seen. And I've been around Asia quite a bit and seen a lot of Buddhist stupas. I don't know if there's others that are bigger, but these ones are pretty impressive, so I'm sure you'll like that. Another thing that I found really interesting was the ancient pools that are there. They actually still fill with water, and a lot of them have these stone fountains that have been carved in, and those are still working too, so I think it's a pretty cool thing to see. I don't know what it is about seeing ancient structures. Or at least for me anyways, I look at them and I imagine what the people were like thousands of years ago, and it's kind of a cool feeling. So my advice, again, check what you want to see, go to the ticket office, pick the sites you want to go to, and take it from there. As far as bike or car, I would say if you want to see a lot, you can go by car, and maybe that'll make it easier for you to see everything you want to see. But for me, I did it by bicycle because I wanted to be able to see a lot slower. Let me explain. Anuradhapura is huge. This ancient city is massive. To go around and see every single spot would take you forever. It would take you ages. So that's why taking a bicycle, I was able to kind of just ride past a lot of places without actually stopping. That gave me a nice idea of what everything was like without rushing through a car. Up to you. Depends on your preference, but that's what I did. My second thing that I loved, the Dambulla cave temple. As the name tells you, it's a cave, it's a temple, and it's located in Dambulla, Sri Lanka, which is in the central region, actually sort of nearby to Anuradhapura, so you could mix those two together into a trip for sure. What can I tell you about this temple? I've seen a lot of temples. Asking someone who's backpacked around Asia how many temples they've seen is kind of like asking a coral how many fish it's seen. Uncountable. You can't count them. I don't know how many temples I've seen, but what I can tell you is that Dambulla Cave Temple is by far one of the most interesting, mysterious ones that I've been to. The fact that it's in a cave kind of makes it mysterious feeling. It's cooler, it's got that vibe. The Buddha structures, there's not a lot of them, and there's not maybe the biggest ones out there, but they're definitely pretty extravagant. And also, what I really liked about this place was the ancient murals. The paint is hard to see in some places, but in other places it actually still has been preserved quite well, and you can see the paintings really well. They're super intricate and interesting. I loved it. Getting to Dambulla, super easy. You can actually take a bus and get off at a stop just near the main road. To get to the entrance of the temple, you have to go down a side road. You could, I guess, take a taxi to do it. I just walked because it's really not that far of a walk from the bus. If you're on a budget, I would suggest that. The other thing to note is that to get up to Dambulla, there are about 300, it could be close to 400. If walking upstairs is an issue for you, just keep that in mind just for accessibility. Yeah, lots of steps to get up, but you get a nice view from up there too, so I like that. The only other thing I would mention is watch out for the monkeys at Dambulla. They're feisty, trust me. Next thing I want to talk about is the Sinharaja Rainforest, and also a little tip that I like to call Patna Viewpoint. So Sinharaja Rainforest, it's in the southern central part of the country. It's lovely there. It's so green and mountainous. It's just a beautiful region just to be around, even if you don't actually go in the rainforest. If you go to Deniyaya, that's the closest town. That would be where you go before you book a tour in. Why do I want to suggest you go here? Wildlife and nature, if that's your thing, hiking, then this is it. What did I see there? I saw a few snakes, one of which was safe to touch and the other one that wasn't. We saw different birds, a giant squirrel, I believe, some monkeys that I don't remember which kind, maybe langurs. So that's really nice. There's some waterfalls to check out there as well. I would definitely suggest going there. The other cool thing is that at the Sinharaja Rainforest, I think it's at a different altitude, so there's actually no mosquitoes compared to the coast, which is where I came from prior to that, and I got eaten alive by mosquitoes. But in the rainforest, I was fine. Fine, except for the thousands of leeches that were crawling in between the laces of my boots. They eventually got me. What can you do? Pro tip, salt your boots before you go hiking in a place that's really damp and has lots of leeches. The salt will deter them from crawling into your boots like they did to me. What do I want to mention about the Patna Viewpoint? This is a little special one. I don't think a lot of people would actually go here. I ended up going there because one of the locals suggested it to me. It's just a short drive away from Deniyaya. You can take a tuk-tuk. I don't think there's a bus that goes out there. It's a little bit random and up a really hilly road. So you could take a tuk-tuk or a cab there. You would walk up to the viewpoint. There is a small temple you can check out as well. It gives you a great view of the surrounding area and also the tea plantations that are around. Super green, super beautiful, would suggest. The other thing about it, you would go to the Deniyaya Division Sliding Rock on Google. I will put a link to it in the description below so you can have reference. What it is a giant rock, obviously it's a rock, and it's between the tea plantations and a river runs over it. And what the locals have done is just made it into a mini water park. So when I went there were a bunch of locals playing around in the water and sliding down and having lots of fun. I just love that feeling of sort of seeing everyone as they would on a normal day, as opposed to, like, you know, when you see locals in your guest house or like in a tour or something. Seeing that was a different kind of feeling and I really liked it. I didn't actually slide down the rock myself. I felt like I was intruding a little bit, so I just kind of like chilled on the side. Whatever, I don't know. Next on my list is Sigiriya and PIDURANGALA Rock. Sigiriya is another ancient city, not as big as Anuradhapura. This is a lot smaller, but what it has that's special is Lion's Rock, which is a massive granite rock, basically juts out of the middle in that area of the country. This is also central part of Sri Lanka, nearby to Dambulla as well, so again, you can really work in a lot into your trip. But Sigiriya is famous because of Lion's Head's rock, and it gives you a nice view of the plains around. You get to see some ancient pools at the bottom of the rock too. There's some other things to see, but the reason why a lot of people don't do it, or rather why I didn't do it, is because it's expensive. It's $30 US to get into Sigiriya. As a backpacker that spends like maybe 20 bucks a day in Asia, to spend $30 US on one little afternoon is a lot, which is why I went to PIDURANGALA Rock, which is just adjacent to Lion's Head Rock. It has a temple at the bottom. There are some Buddhist statues and caves on the way up, which you can also see. But the special part is that once you climb up, there are some tricky rocks there to get up to the top, kind of on all fours sort of deal. If hiking or climbing isn't your thing, I don't know if you'd want to do this, but the reason why I went there was because the entrance fee is only $3. So for me, that made more sense because A, I was more looking for the view of the area and actually to see Lion's Head Rock rock itself too, which if you're on Lion's Head Rock, you can't see it, but if you go to PIDURANGALA, you can see it. And I wanted to see Lion's Head Rock, so I went to the other one to get a view of that. And it gives you a great view of the plains surrounding the area too. That's what I did. You can do it too. Next one I want to mention is Central Highlands of Sri Lanka. This includes Adams Peak to Horton's Plains. You can take the train to Ella to get to Horton's Plains. I didn't go there myself, but I know there's lots of hiking and wildlife to be seen there too. Train is good. You can also take the bus around these areas, and I thought that was really nice too. I guess it would just be if you get car sick or motion sickness, maybe a train is a much better option and more comfortable. Adams Peak, I'll talk about this one really briefly. It's a really popular place to go. It's actually a pilgrim site, but most tourists like myself would just hike up for the sunrise. It is, according to the locals, a 3-hour hike. For me, it only took about an hour and a half. So because I was going up there for sunrise, I planned to get there just when it started getting light. But the problem was I got there way early and then I froze my butt off at the top because it was cold. We're high up, so it's windy. I felt like my butt was literally glued to the stone underneath me. If you're gonna do the hike up to sunrise, I would suggest bringing some layers or maybe a small blanket if you have, jacket to put underneath you, something like that, just so you're more comfortable. It is a very nice view though. The sunrise from there was amazing. What I love about the Central Highlands is that the sort of rolling hills that you see more south, like in the Sinharaja, which I mentioned, becomes these more mountainous, bigger hills, if you will, and more trees. It's a very green, beautiful area. Would suggest checking out the highlands. Next one I'll mention is definitely check out some of the national parks in Sri Lanka, because Sri Lanka is famous for wildlife. It's actually a biodiversity hotspot on our planet, which is pretty cool, I think. I wouldn't miss out on this. If I could go see every single one, I would, but I don't have time or the money to do that, so I just picked one. I'll mention a few. So the first one I'll mention is Yala National Park. This one is super famous. It's one of the bigger ones. It's in the southern region, so if you're in that area, maybe you can work it in. The good thing about it is that because it's so popular, there are a lot of established tours, so arranging a tour there would be pretty simple because there's so much infrastructure already in place. What can you see there? Lots of elephants, different birds like the hornbills, crocodiles, supposedly leopards, not lepers, oh my god. Supposedly leopards, but they're really hard to spot. So those are the kind of things. And you can actually see those animals in all the national parks. The one thing to note about Yala is because it is more popular, you're likely going to have more people around. It's going to be more busy. That's just one thing to consider before going there. The next one I'll mention is Kadula National Park, and this is actually where I went myself. I saw probably over 100 elephants. I'm not sure if that's the exact amount, but felt like that. The good thing about it was that because it's not as big or not as popular as Yala, it was actually pretty quiet. So we had most of the park to ourselves, which was really, really nice. I love being alone, I guess. From a wildlife perspective, it's kind of better to be more alone when you're going through these places, because once an animal is spotted, it's like everyone crowds there. So if it's less busy, then you kind of get to see better and you get to see more usually. Kadula is in the central region. You can work that into your trip if you're going by Dambulla, Sigiriya, or Anuradhapura. The last one I'll mention is Wilpatu. Wilpatu is in the northern western side of the island. It was actually closed for a while because of the Civil War, and even now they only actually have about 25% of the park available for tourists. Because it was closed for a long time and because they've kept it closed off, it's very much untouched and wild. So if you're looking for a more off the beaten path, Wilpatu is a great option. And I also heard from one of the locals while I was there that your chances of seeing a leopard are actually much greater if you go somewhere like Wilpatu. If you want to see that, that might be a good option. Last thing that I will mention is the beaches. Beaches are awesome there. If you go to Sri Lanka, you'll probably end up at a beach at some point because they're just so nice. And who doesn't love to chill on a beach with a king coconut? I do. But even if you don't like to sit on the beach and cook like a piece of meat on a grill, because that's what I like doing, you can go surfing. It's actually really popular to go surfing in Sri Lanka. A lot of people travel there just to do that. There's also lots of diving opportunities and you can go whale watching. So you don't have to sit on the beach if you don't want to. If you're interested in surfing, you could check out some beaches along the south. Unawatuna is a really popular one. It's kind of like a more hipstery place, so you can check that out. If you're on the east coast, you can check out Aragon Bay. That one is also popular for surfing. For diving, I don't know myself. I don't dive. Like I said, I'm lazy and I just sit on the beach. So if you're interested in diving, I'll put a blog post underneath that will show you maybe a better idea of some places you can go if you're interested in diving. But otherwise, if you're looking for just a chill beach in the south, I went to Polena. That's where I stayed and I volunteered for a bit too. It was super nice and chill. There's not a lot of people there. It's not as busy as Marisa. There's only a few guest houses around, so it had a really chill vibe and I liked it because I like quiet places. So you can check that out too. But literally all the beaches in Sri Lanka are nice, whether it's the south or the east, and even the west coast I enjoyed a lot. So check it out. That's it for today. Sri Lanka is pretty awesome. For such a small place, there's a lot you can do there. Like I've already mentioned, different temples, ancient cities, beaches, and hiking and wildlife. Lots of opportunities here. I hope this gave you a little bit of inspiration so you can plan a trip there once their borders open. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.